So the last session you've all been waiting for, because today we'll be talking about hospitality asset management. Gemma, she gave us, prior to this speech, that we should start with a story. I've told Emma, we know too many stories, but we can never talk about them. But today's story is about hospitality asset management. Before I introduce and pass it on to the esteemed forum and panelists, I'd like to give the audience some history of Hama. This year is a very special year because it represents for the Hospitality Asset Managers Association, Middle East and Africa, our 10-year anniversary. So it's been a very long journey. Jonathan this morning, or this afternoon, mentioned about the 20-year journey. So we've been for the past decade, hand in hand with the bench on this journey of basically sharing professional hospitality asset management. Now, first of all, of course, thanks to Jonathan, I hope he's in the room, and his entire team for believing in us. Because when we started this journey, we were a little unknown, obscure table in the forum, with maybe a handful of asset managers. Fast forward 10 years, we have now the privilege and the time to have a very high-profile international hospitality asset managers panel to present to you. Now, for those who do not know, there is an association called Hospitality Asset Managers Association. This is now a global association. It started in the US, which is represented by Michelle. Then it transitioned into Japan, followed by Asia Pacific. Then we have Hama Europe, represented by Theodore. And then that continued transitioning to China, represented by David. And then the last chapter is Middle East, which I've had the honor to lead for some time. Now, today's guest board member is from Hama International, which is AJ. AJ Singh is a very good friend, very dear friend. But more than that, he's also one of the editors of our book that we live and breathe by. And this book, which I'd like to share with you, is an important element. Like any good asset manager, I travel every single day with my book, and I have it actually by chance in my bag. This is called the Hospitality Asset Managers Principles and Practices. Now, in the world of asset management, there are not many course books that provide the discipline of this profession. However, today we'll be deep diving a bit more in the history, then on certain authors. Michelle herself, if you go to section 1, chapter 4, she's put a whole section together. AJ Singh has blessed this, and we continue to bless this. Then we have David coming from all the way from Shanghai to share the global markets, what's happening in Shanghai. And then Theodore, who has been a tremendous pioneer and pillar of pushing forward Hama in Europe, and is now very much involved in the Middle East. So enough said about that journey. Why don't we individually introduce the panel, starting with Michelle, because I've told about our non-profit titles, but in our real life, we have a lot of other things and we have to make money. So Michelle, please, why don't you give an introduction of yourself and your company?
Good afternoon. My name is Michelle Russo. I am the CEO and founder of Hotel Asset Value Enhancement, which we call Hotel AVE for short, or Hotel Ave, or if you are from France, Hotel Ave. And we are predominantly an Americas-based company. We asset manage 75 hotels, assets under management, a little bit over 12 billion. We also have an advisory practice and an operational effectiveness practice and 50 professionals in the US.
So welcome to Dubai.
Thank you.
And how's the jet lag treating you?
Jet lag is wicked.
It's wicked. Okay. We have the shimmers afterwards to recover. AJ, please. Professor AJ.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is AJ Singh. I'm the Director of the Hospitality and Tourism Management Program at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. The token academic on the panel, but also been involved with HAMA for many, many years. So really appreciate the invitation to be at the conference and on the panel. I was Director of Real Estate at Michigan State University, but now down in Texas. We'll talk a little bit more, but I'm also involved with a exam certification called CHAM, and so we're revising that, and as the panel progresses, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But great to be here, and Renee, thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. David, welcome all the way from China. I know it's been 24 hours of full-on.
Yes.
But we're glad that you are here, are part of us. Why don't you give some background?
Sure. Thank you, Renee. Hello, everyone. My first time to this summit. Pleasure to know you all. My name is David Chen. I'm Chairman and CEO of FOG Capital and Asset Management. FOG stands for Fields of Gold. We set up that firm in Boston. We do private equity investment in real estate. And also I'm on the board of USO REIT. It is one of the major REIT listed in Hong Kong. 20 years ago, 2005, we listed in Hong Kong. It's the very first REIT ever listed in the world for China properties. So far, it's about 50 billion Hong Kong dollar in size. So same age as FHS, 20 years. Nice to know you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Theodore, welcome back home.
Thank you.
Say, please, short introduction.
Thank you. Nice to be back. My name is Theodor Kuback. I'm managing partner to a German investment fund that invests across various asset classes, including hospitality, through a regulatory structure. We are also investing through club deals, private equity, as well as limited and general partnerships. As such, we are developing hotels in Portugal, in Germany, in Austria. One of my real interests, however, is development into ESG and into AI. As such, I'm sitting on some boards, advisory boards that follow exactly these topics, AI and ESG.
Thank you. So as you can see, a very diverse background, very international background, all through professional asset managers who I highly respect, and I can learn from every single one. Today's session, which is branded as the HAMA Global Presidents Forum, is something we're taking around the world. We're taking this around the world to share with the audience, again, the foundations of hospitality asset management, but also to give the audience a live perspective and immediate perspective of global markets. What's happening in China, what's happening in Europe, what's happening in the US. Our other presidents from Japan, they couldn't make it, and APAC couldn't make it. But at least you will find exactly what markets, where the bulls and the bears eventually are. Before we transition to that, I'd like to backtrack again the history. Today, the term hospitality asset management is used very lightly, very commonly, very generally. And although 10 years ago, nobody knew about this. Now everybody is, we have asset management, we understand asset management, we perform asset management, but what is asset management? And this is where I'm going to try to relay from our point of view, from an association, international association, what the asset management discipline entails. Now, if I ask every single person in the room, I'll get 10, 20 different kind of interpretations. So at the end of this, I hope that you have some history, some knowledge, and where this is transitioning to. Michel, you were at the forefront, you wrote the book, you're part of the book, you're part of the whole journey. Could you share with us how did asset management start and what does that represent for you?
So asset management started in the late 80s, early 90s in the US, where most of the hotel owners were insurance companies, and they partnered with hotel brands like ITT Sheraton or IHG, and the insurance company needed a representative. And so that's how it started. And do you want me to tell you how HAMA
Oh,
started?
please, please, please.
And HAMA started because in 1990 we had a downturn in the US, and we also had a lot of overbuilding due to a tax reform act that expired. And in hotel real estate, there is and still is a misalignment of interest between operators and owners. Right? Operators are typically paid on revenue, and owners take what cash is left to the bank. And it really started as a gripe session, quite frankly. But during all the griping, there were bylaws set up and membership and a bank account. I got involved with the organization in '95 when the gentleman who founded HAMA did not see a need for the organization anymore because the economy was turning around and everything seemed to be going well again. But I was relatively new to asset management at the time, and I felt like it was a necessary organization. There wasn't the specialization of hotel asset management, right? The concept of asset managers existed in investments, in finance, and stocks forever. And so I revived the organization and got some peers together to build up the organization to be, at the time, was close to 100 people. And we really were a force to be reckoned with for the industry. The industry was a little bit on their heels, not knowing what we were going to do and how we were going to act. And as an organization, it was decided that we were a collection of individuals versus a voice of the industry. So that is what I call HAMA 2.0. I still think there's an opportunity for HAMA to be more of a voice of the industry. So Renee, maybe you can take that,
Correct.
do something with that here.
We've been very active here.
Great.
So HAMA, again, the profession was built out of necessity, right? Insurances. At that time as well, we had a lot of forfeit for foreclosures of hotels, right? It went back to the hotel, to the banks. But there was no discipline of hospitality as management. AJ, why don't you give us some background and what is the definition for asset management for you?
So just kind of picking up a little bit from what Michelle said, 1990 was kind of the time when I sort of got introduced to asset management, which wasn't really, the term had not really been totally coined. I used to work for a company called Laventhal and Horwath. And as Michelle mentioned, we had a downturn, the savings and loans crisis, and a lot of hotels got taken over by banks. And so they were really looking for babysitters. And so initially the asset managers were really consultants who were really looking to reposition properties. So just kind of taking it back, the early stages of asset management, if we can call it that at that point, was really people who took over properties that banks had, repositioned them for quick sale, and move on. I worked for a gentleman by the name of Morris Lasky, and he used to take over a lot of these underperforming hotels and had hired young consultants like me to go and kind of quickly reposition those properties and turn back. So that was sort of one point of asset management that we started. As, I guess, the industry grew, the ownership structure grew. I mean, if you think about owners of hotels now, they're not what they were in the 80s. You know, we had the REITs that came on in the mid-90s, we had private equity, we had sovereign funds, all those came on. So suddenly there was this sophistication that started to come out. And so as the owners became more sophisticated, as Michelle was saying, the asset management also evolved to cater to the needs of those sophisticated owners. So what we call passive owners, people who really were investors in real estate, but not really understanding the nuances of operating hotels. And that's why I think this profession of asset management really started to kind of come to the forefront in the US. And now globally, I'm sure we'll get other perspectives.
So the word sophistication, I think, is a key takeaway, which we can elaborate. Michelle, do you want to add to that?
Oh, no, I was just going to add that prior to 1990, the brands were asset heavy.
Yes.
And starting in 1990, there was the evolution of REITs. I worked for an insurance company at the time. They were partners with these brands. So as the brands were becoming more asset light, there was a greater need for this level of expertise.
And the separation of ownership and management and brands. So, and you were very famous back then for the famous.
She's still famous.
or the
She's still famous.
No, the infamous case where really brought. Maybe share some of that with us. That was kind of an interesting story.
So there was a lawsuit, and truly you never want to have to sue anyone, and it takes a lot of. It was a big decision for an insurance company. I worked for John Hancock Mutual Insurance Company at the time to decide to sue what was then ITT Sheraton before the merger with Weston. And is a very famous case. And again, it was contract law, agency law that basically says that ITT Sheraton was not looking out for the owner's best interest. And there were a lot of examples. And Hancock won. They won something like $50 million in the right to terminate the contract. Now, this case was, of course, in the U.S., you just keep challenging it, so it got whittled down. But still, it was a landmark case in terms of what are the duties and obligations of an operator to an owner.
Excellent. Theodore, why don't you give us your perspective and how is the situation in Europe different from the US?
I think that's a very nice transition to coming into the present, having heard all about how asset management has evolved. In Europe, we have really grown into it through all of different stages, meaning with the development of the sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, and so forth, and the change in capital structure due to COVID, due to the most recent capital market environment. Also, our profession has had to somewhat shift in terms of focus. So, in the interest and spirit of the title, the Bulls and Bears of Global Capital Markets, I think it's best explained by just what we do as Hammer Europe with our annual Asset Management Achievement Award, where annually the best projects, best-in-class projects, are being rewarded of what they do with their assets. And last year, a project from Italy has won, which has really drawn all the levers in terms of asset management. They had bought, in the middle of COVID, 2 properties in Italy, one in Milan, one in Florence, both of them in Florence. One was then a Hilton, the other one holiday in Hilton Garden Inn. And first, they deflagged Hilton and branded it down to a DoubleTree hotel, simply because they found that the management of Hilton is too expensive for where they are. Secondly, they changed the management from a management agreement to a franchise agreement, simply because they have more flexibility as well. Then there was the CapEx play, of course, and a sustainability play, which gave them an incentive in terms of financing. And then they improved the outlets the operation by changing getting some clusters, as well as insourcing food and beverage and housekeeping. And with this, in a span of only 3 years, compared from 2019 to 2024, the ADR increased by 48%, the GOP increased by 118%, and the value increased by 32%, simply by drawing some of the levers by active asset management. And this is where we've said asset management is not just operation. It has so many more levers to it to make an asset profitable.
Correct, and these levers want a deep dive as well, but I'd like to also hear, by the way, congratulations on the Asset Management Award, which I know you've worked very hard, and Europe has worked hard. This is something we'd like to bring to the region as well. So under the leadership of Theodore and the board, we'd like to really embrace that for this region. So we look forward to that. David, China, 10-year anniversary, congratulations. You guys have also made tremendous progress on the landscape. Why don't you give the audience and us an overall picture of asset management in China?
Yeah, actually, our concept of asset management is a little bit different. The REIT in Hong Kong we have is a mixed use. It's a mixed assets. We have hotel. We have one of the major Four Seasons in southern China in Guangzhou. We have apartments, which is managed by Ascott. And also we have shopping malls, offices, a wide range of assets. So start from a private equity fund. The asset management goal is to exit, to buy, to acquire a property, make profit, maybe renovate or redevelopment. Sometimes our PE fund extend into the greenfield development, but most of the time is converting to a higher level of quality, then exit into REIT. So this is the life cycle of a PE fund. And then once you enter the asset inject asset into REIT, that becomes like a market monitoring, like a risk management for asset that's been IPO'd into a public market. So we are watching of how to expand the REIT. A good example is that we started the REIT back in 2005. It's 4.6 billion Hong Kong dollar, and now expanding to 50 billion Hong Kong dollars, about 10 something times larger than the original asset value. So during the process, a lot of acquisition, a lot of investment on the top tier. But in the lower tier is the solid, we call it property management or operation. We really watch the team on the ground on how they can beef up the performance of each asset. So it's a big ecosystem for asset management. And now that in mainland China, the REITs market is just started. It started in 2021. It's only 4 years ago. And the market in China, real estate market in China is I consider it a beer market. It's not as good as before, but the REITs market is a bull market. In 4 years in China, already have a listed rate of 75 listed rate. That means add up Singapore and Hong Kong. Those are the two the most active REITs market in Asia. They have only 50-something REITs. And that's been gone through a 20-year process of expansion for Singapore and Hong Kong, two markets. But in China, in 4 years, it's already 75. So I foresee a large potential, a huge potential for China's C-REITs, asset management we talk about. So we're trying to build up a production line from pre-REITs, fund investment, private equity investment, pre-REITs, pre-IPO investment, later on build into a public listed REIT. So that's the life cycle for the asset management for us.
Thank you, David. So this is just a snapshot where the diversity of asset management, right? We're talking about real estate investment trust, something the region still has to explore, which we are moving into the region, into that direction. However, the discipline of asset management, if it's now operational asset management, we're hearing about the legal background, the value creation. Insurance is very much big in the US. So these are all different disciplines, but what actually is the discipline of asset management? And I think you can really sum it up to something what I personally live and breathe every day is just representing the best interest for the ownership. Whatever it is, if it's sovereign wealth, if it's the portfolio, if it's a single asset, you represent the interest and make the return for owner. In one sentence, Michel, what is your definition of asset management?
Maximizing the value of the real estate.
AJ?
I would mirror that and add, it's the person who sits between the owner and the operator/brand.
David?
Yeah, I think one thing is value for sure. Value is our key word. And also taking care of the investors. We want to take care of them.
Theo. Sure.
You know, King Abdullah from Jordan, when asked by Christian Amanpour, when she was asked him, what is democracy for you? She says, democracy means something different for every single country. And in the spirit of asset management means something different for every different capital structure. It may be a different approach, but in essence, yes, it is capital protection, so value protection and value enhancement. But how it is driven, how it is taken, may mean something different depending on where you're at.
So the how to achieve it, that's where the secret sauce comes, right? Because as a professional asset manager, it's just not on operational side, it's not on the finance side, it's not the investment side, it's not on the legal side, it's not on the development side, it's not only the life cycle, it's then as well we have the strategy behind it. All this comes together. And as a professional asset manager, you have to know every single element in order to drive value, to maximize the profits, to maximize that return. And that's where the true discipline comes in. So when you go back to your team, to your asset managers, there's a different degree of understanding what asset management is. But again, the disciplines is the how do you get there. That's the secret sauce. And that's where it comes with experience, life experience, and that's why I'm very privileged to have these professionals on stage over here. Of that. So that said, let's move into CHAM, right? Major.
Yeah, so I think that brings us to the Certified Hotel Asset Manager certification. So we talked about the evolution of asset management, starting from not even knowing what it is. And now it's a profession. So like any profession, whether you're appraising a hotel, you need an MAI. Whether you are an auditor, you need to have a CPA designation. So in 2012, HAMA decided that they needed to have their own certification. And so the Certified Hotel Asset Manager certification was launched. It's very rigorous. It's establishes the standard of excellence for somebody who has a CHAM designation. You have to have 7 years of experience before you can even apply to sit for the exam. You have to be nominated by 2 people. There's a selection committee. With that, then you have a 200-question exam, which was put together, and now we're currently updating it. And once you go through that, you have this very prestigious elite title of being a CHAM designee. So I don't know currently, Michelle, how many we have, but I'm on the CHAM committee, and currently we're updating the US version, but we're also going to be revising the CHAM to have more region-specific questions. So we'll have a version that's Middle East focused, there'll be one version that's Asia focused, and another one that's Europe focused. So so that's a little bit about CHAM. I don't know what else.
Well, this differentiation is important because right now, when you go through your hiring process and you see the resume of an asset manager, we want to distinguish that. Is now, if that person is CHAM certified, it goes through a proper process. And that process is vetted. That process is highly selective. I believe we've only had 3 or 4 in the Middle East who've passed that exam. We're making it much more international, so thanks for that effort. This is under the leadership, again, Michelle and AJ and the board are very active, but that will differentiate the quality of asset manager in moving into the right direction as we progress. Because suddenly everybody's an asset manager. Nothing wrong with that. We want that. That's what our mission has been, to profess the profession, which is a wonderful profession, but now it's about the quality we drive. Let's talk about members. We're already actually running out of time. How many members do you have in the US, Michelle?
Yeah, I think it's close to 200.
200? China?
I think about 100.
100?
52.
52. In the Middle East, we have about 80. I know that Japan has about 50. APAC has another 50. So those are basically individual asset managers who are part of this membership or this association. Comes up to 500, 600, 700. But globally, we represent over 1 million, 2 hotel rooms. We still have to do our census on that, but that's in the Middle East over here. We've taken this to the next level where we're actually on the advisory board of DET. Now we're doing a lot of representation of ownership, as well as we're taking this on to the next level. And the feedback from our esteemed colleagues, the Asset Management Award, I think is going to be fantastic. The CHAM is going to be really an impact. And then as well, REITs. This region is ready for REITs, David, so we need your expertise.
Huge potential. Also for Dubai, I think this is a young market also for the REITs.
It's a tremendous market. And Michel, we'd love to see you more in the Middle East, get your guidance, because everything transitions from the US to Europe and then eventually comes its way to they have international best practice that they've done it. What they preach, we learn and we bring to the table. So we'd like to see more of that. And that's why we have this HAMA Presidents Forum to bring everybody together. So thank you for making the long journey. And we'll see you again very soon. Thank you for the audience.
Thank you.
Very much. Gemma?
Yeah.
Thank you.